No falling asleep on this set. The Sixers take game 4. You can't doze off after that excitement. What a win. As we welcome you here to Sixers Post-Game Live, brought to you by Cure Auto Insurance. Amy Fadul and the always very awake and very present Jim Lynam and Mark Jackson. And guys, this one, let's face it, was a little bit hairy at times, but the Sixers offense, it was unstoppable. 64% by halftime, Mark Jackson. And then you think about what James Harden did. 16 of his 31 came in the fourth quarter. Think that man still got a little something left in the tank?
Ooh, I think he got a lot of than a little bit. I mean, listen, this team was thrusting. They really had their power. They was forcing the issue, forcing the tempo. And I liked where the points was at tonight. It wasn't an 80s or 90-point game. We got up in the hundreds. 116, I'll take that all day. Take that back to Miami.
Jim, I mean, obviously the offense was firing on all cylinders. Joel Embiid, as we heard the announcers mention, does make it a completely different series and ball game, and it is a totally different series at this point.
Oh, no, this is a brand new one, Aim. But I just thought that James Harden, he just gave you, I thought, his best fourth quarter since he's been a 76er, and by far his best fourth quarter in the playoffs. I thought he was sensational.
Let's check out James Harden's fourth quarter. It is the Colonial Nissan game changer, and boy, did it ever change the game. Because listen, Jimmy Butler was going crazy in 40+. But Jim, for Harden to have this, after what we've seen the previous couple of games in the fourth quarter, he quadrupled his point totals.
Yeah, well, he was shooting that three ball, Aim. You know, last game I thought he did a good job penetrating the ball in the absence of being able to make that three. But tonight, when he's making shots like this with that little step back dribble move, that's the old James Harden who was unguardable.
And there was one shot that we saw, you know, obviously he could still do that when he blows by the defender. That's always a good step. He doesn't always do that, but sometimes he gets the call. But some of the threes from the distance, look at this, Mark Jackson. I mean, that's got to be, what, 26, 27 feet?
He was feeling it. He had this rhythm going, and better late than never. We waiting for this James Harden to come back. This is old Houston James. Look at that. Oh, N1. Call that ref. Well, we'll take it. N1. This is old Houston James Harden. I love seeing this. He's like, we stopped Joel, we stopped Max, we stopped Tobias. Oh, man, and this guy's going to get going now. This Sixers team have 4 legitimate scorers in this game that you can't stop all 3 of them. It only takes one to really get off, and tonight was James.
Yeah, you could see the Heat players, PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo, they were absolutely gassed in the fourth quarter because they were doing everything they could to deny Joel Embiid. And then you have Harden, who has not done that in the second half. He comes out and absolutely lights the Heat on fire. They shoot lights out from beyond the arc. And Mark, this is a series now. Jim was just saying it all starts anew. And I know there's going to be people out there be like, oh, what if we got... Don't worry about what you could have. Let's go ahead and see what they can do. And they have to go now to Miami and win Game 5.
Yes, they do, Amy. And listen, it's a different ball game when the big fella Joel's out there. You know, I called it when we first started, the series first started. I really believed that the Sixers was going to steal one of those 2 games without Joel. But with Joel, I'm even more confident. I feel truly that confident. And I know some people hit me on DM and be like, how can you feel that way? Because I like our matchup. This team, the Miami Heat, is an old-fashioned made-up team, which is very good. Defensive-minded, very tough and physical, coaches all in line. But I just don't think, I think eventually you got to be able to run and score the ball. And I think the Sixers have a much more of an advantage on that. That's why I like us.
Yeah, you both have said it. It wasn't like the Miami Heat in those first 2 games where they won were really just blowing the doors off the Sixers. Sixers had a lot of turnovers. They missed a lot of shots, Jim. So that gives you, I would think, hope and renewed hope for this series.
Yeah, well, just the one number that was very atypical of Sixer offense, Aim, they made, what, a total of 14 threes over 2 games. In Game 3, they more than doubled that. And I think that three-point shooting is what they're going to need. They have to take that with them. Tonight, I think James Harden had 4 threes in the fourth quarter. I know he shot 6 for 10 from three-land for the game. But that kind of presence out there on that line, it just makes Joel all that more effective. And I'm really, this win came despite the fact that I thought this was Miami's best defense, maybe that they've ever played. I'm going all the way back on Joel Embiid. They literally double-teamed them without the ball. And as a result, all that attention paid to Joe, I think that's what helped James Harden big time.
Yeah, to your point, 4 for 6 for James Harden from 3 in the fourth quarter alone. But you're right. It was a really good job by Bam Adebayo, I thought, denying him. You saw PJ Tucker come over. But when the Sixers shoot 54+%, you would think they're going to be in a lot of games. Why do you think, Mark, they were so much better from just overall offensively?
Amy, it was too many guys clicking tonight. You know, you had James Harden, Maxey, Joel Embiid all get going. Tobias was finding his spot, 6 for 10. I'll take that all day. When you have that many guys that's able to get buckets, able to dribble, pass, and shoot, you can't hone in and keen on one guy. We know Joel is the focal point of this team, but the other guys are not bad themselves. So Miami tried everything. Went to a 1-3-1 zone at a time, 1-2-2 zone, to box and one. They tried everything. But Joel and his 76 team just trying to find what worked at any time down the floor. I really love the way this team scored the ball. I really like they got late contest shots versus Miami, and Miami didn't shoot the ball as well as they would like.
Well, it was a big night, and it's amazing. We haven't mentioned Joel Embiid's offense or his real game, except for to say he was defended well, but that's how it happens when you have such balanced scoring. Let's check in on Joel Embiid's night. He is our subject of stargazing, brought to you by Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board. 24 points, 11 rebounds. Jim, this is a guy that even on an off night offensively, he's going to give you so much, and we know what he does on the defensive end.
Yeah, it wasn't so much he was off, I don't think, Aim. The Sixers really, they had big-time difficulty getting him the ball because of the way Miami, see right there, they literally tried to front him every time down the court, and that's a pretty risky strategy, but they did it with somebody in front, and then they would bring somebody from behind. In effect, they were double-teaming him without the ball, and I give the Sixers credit. I thought they had great patience. They didn't force it into Joe. And they got, as a result, they got balanced scoring from all 5 starters.
Yeah, Mark, to Jim's point, we saw that in the first half, a couple turnovers from these kind of like entry passes that didn't work. They had Oladipo kind of fronting them, and they were able to tip the ball. Butler was another one that was out there. So they corrected that. But his rebounding, especially one off that James Harden missed late in the game on offensive rebound to reset the clock and get a better possession, you can't underestimate things like that.
You can, Amy. I remember my little brother Kobe Bryant used to say, defense ends with the rebound. You can play great defense all you want for 23 seconds, but if you don't come out to rebound, that don't mean you play great defense. That means you didn't finish the final point. This Sixers team kept this Miami team shooting 20% from 3, and we finished with the board. And we was able to get other things on the other end. Joel, can we just talk about Joel Embiid's one-on-one defense, no matter who he was guarding, whether it was Bam, whether it was P.J. Tucker, whether it was Jimmy the Butler, no matter who it was, Joel's defense, and then finish the rebounds for us to go the other way with the tempo, I thought it was beautiful to watch. It was like poetry in motion. And that was, I'm sorry, Amy, I mean, got you off, forgive me. But Coach spoke about that during the breakdown in the beginning of the game. It's Coach Joel's defense. How he's able to guard guards, get to the rim, contest, rebound. He does it all, and that's what makes him the MVP. Stop playing. Where's the award at? Yeah, Stop playing. Come on, guys. Give it up.
I looked around the arena. I did not see it, so maybe it'll come later. But I don't know if we're going to see that at all. But it doesn't matter, I think, for a lot of people in the building, because every time Joel Embiid steps to the line for free throws, you hear those MVP chants. So whether it gets the hardware or not, I know who everyone around here thinks the MVP is. And nationally now, too, they're starting to take notice as to what you guys were talking about, the defense. But you see what Joel Embiid does, this mere presence, that does help open up the shooters, Jim. So when you think about how much he draws, and you're saying they're double teaming, he hasn't even gotten a look at the ball yet. Yeah,
but picture when you have 2 defenders right there forced to guard Joe in the middle of the floor. There's so many other opportunities for people, off of penetration. You saw Harden really with a couple of key drives right down that lane, and there was nobody there because those 2 other defenders were on Joel Embiid, who hadn't even touched the ball.
It's a balanced scoring thing, something we talked about in the pregame. There's 6 players that scored in double figures, all 5 starters and George Niang. And when you're having that kind of balanced scoring, it's going to be hard to imagine the Heat beating the Sixers if they've got guys that are sharing it, because they're not all just barely getting into it. It's not all 10 and 11 points. Guys are really scoring the ball well. Can they continue this for Game 5 and then hopefully Game 6?
I mean, this is what they do. So I can understand if there's a fluke. I can understand if this team hasn't been moving his ball. I can understand if this team, Maxey, hasn't been a one-man fast break. This has been this team since the acquisition of James Harden. They have different ways to flow and different ways to score the ball and different people who can do that. This is not a fluke, ladies and gentlemen. This is who the Sixers are. They're a team that's multi-talented with multiple guys that can score the ball and multiple guys that can make plays for others. That's why they're so special.
So the Heat, they're on the ropes, let's face it. I know it's 2-2, but it feels like it should be 3-1. Jim, what do you think that their mindset is going to be when they go home for Game 5?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's real simple if you're in the Heat locker room. Plain and simple, if I was talking to a Heat team as a coach right now, we have to be who we are when we go back home in terms of three-point shooting. We'll repeat, we've said this before. They were the #1 three-point shooting team in the NBA. You ready for the number tonight? Try 7 for 35. That's 1 out of 5, 20%. They shoot 38% over the regular season. You remember how we were bemoaning the fact of Sixer three-point shooting in the 2 games at Miami? Trust me, Miami's doing the exact same thing now, looking forward to going back home. The Sixers are going to have to continue this type of defense, getting out to the perimeter to challenge three-point shooters.
I mean, you do worry about them coming back to the mean on that because shooters will shoot and the shots will eventually go in. But you saw some foul trouble early on for some of their shooters and the frustration level. Jimmy Butler trying to carry the team through. That's all well and good. I mean, he had 40 points tonight. But, Mark, can their other guys step up? It was a struggle, it seems like, and the Sixers defensively on the perimeter did a really good job. Matisse Thybulle was on Tyler Hero for a good chunk, too.
You know, Bam had a good game with 21. Victor Oladipo, who literally just popped out of nowhere, didn't play none of the preseason game. I mean, regular season, took all Duncan Robinson minutes. Now Duncan don't play, and he gets all the minutes. You know, it's quite interesting that, with that being said, defense is #1 priority. But when you look at this Miami Heat team, I've said it, I'm going to say it again. They're a very good, tough team, very good rebounding team, and they're great defensively. But do they have enough legitimate scoring on a team? And that's where I think we have it. I think we have them beat in that category. And once again, Jimmy the Butler with 41 or 40, you can't slow him down. Bam had a pretty good game versus Joel with 21 and 7. But to me, I just don't think they have enough scoring, Amy. I don't.
Yeah, the role players really struggling in this one. Obviously, Tyler Hero only 11. Kyle Lowry, we saw him kind of limping around out there. You wonder how much he's going to be able to go. I know he certainly is the ultimate competitor, so something to watch for a couple of games.